The counselors had just finished a tense debate about trade routes and defensive borders. Voices had grown sharp, translators working overtime as humans and Selyrians accused one another of hidden motives. Finally, High Chancellor Vorain rose, his long silver robes flowing like liquid light. "Enough," he declared. His voice reverberated through the chamber. "Let us pause. Too much hostility clouds judgment." The hall fell quiet. That was when Selyra stepped forward. She was radiant, her tall form cloaked in white that shimmered with faint threads of violet. Her eyes, golden and luminous, swept the crowd. Even among her kind she stood out. Regal, composed, unshaken by the tension that had silenced the room. When she spoke, her voice carried not only through the hall but through every ear, heart, and mind present. "I have words to speak," she said. "Not of borders or treaties, but of truth." Her gaze shifted directly to me. The weight of hundreds of eyes turned with hers. My stomach tightened. "Human Daniel Hale," she said. "You saved my life when the Void Pirates would have torn us apart. You stood between fire and death without thought for yourself. In the days after, you spoke to me not as lesser or greater, but as equal. You looked into my eyes and saw not an alien, but a soul." Her voice trembled now, though her posture remained proud. "Before my people, before yours, I confess this truth. I wish you were my husband, human." The words struck like thunder. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Humans froze wide-eyed. Selyrians whispered among themselves, their glowing markings flickering with agitation. Even the Chancellor's stern face cracked in disbelief. And me. My mind went blank. The middle. For a long moment silence reigned. Then the storm broke. "She insults our traditions," a Selyrian counselor roared. "This is a mockery," shouted a human admiral. Accusations and outrage filled the air. My ears rang with the clamor. But Selyra stood firm, her golden eyes locked on mine. Finally, High Chancellor Vorain raised his hand. The hall quieted again, though the air thrummed with tension. "Lady Selyra," he said slowly, "do you understand what you have spoken? Marriage between Selyrian and human is forbidden. Not by law, but by nature itself." Selyra lifted her chin. "Nature bends where hearts command it." The Chancellor's gaze shifted to me. "And you, human, what do you say?" All eyes bore into me, burning, demanding. My throat was dry as desert sand. What could I say? To deny her would wound her pride, perhaps even fracture this fragile peace. To accept. I thought of the nights aboard my ship, when we had spoken quietly after the battle. How she had asked about Earth oceans, and how her laughter had been like chimes in the wind. How I had felt less alone in those rare conversations than I had in years of command. I met her gaze. "I say, that Selyra speaks truth. She honors me more than I deserve." The hall erupted again, but the Chancellor's voice cut through the chaos. "Then let us hear her reasons. Speak, Selyra, so none may doubt your intent." Her confession. She stepped closer, her words flowing now with unshaken resolve. "I have lived among halls of stone and crystal, yet never felt safe until that night Daniel stood before me with nothing but courage. I have spoken with scholars and warriors, yet never felt understood until he listened to me as though my words were precious. In my people's eyes, such bonds are rare and sacred. We call it Ithari, the union of spirits across the void of difference. It comes not often and never twice. When it does, it must be named or the soul withers. So I name it. I name him. My truth is spoken. Let the hall be stunned, let worlds be shaken, but I will not hide the fire of my spirit." Her voice echoed until even the crystal walls seemed to hum with it. I felt the breath leave my chest. It was not politics. It was not a performance. She meant every word. Rising tension. But sincerity alone could not erase centuries of division. She threatens our unity, barked Counselor Dresk, his silver skin glowing harshly. To bind herself to a human is to shame our heritage. A human general sneered. And what of us? Will our officers be tempted away by alien seduction? This cannot stand. The hall threatened to unravel into chaos. I saw fists clenched, guards tense, weapons half drawn. Then the Chancellor spoke again, his voice colder than the void. Silence. The chamber obeyed. He turned to Selyra. Your confession endangers everything we have built. Peace is fragile. Already factions hunger for war. Will you tear open the wound we struggle to heal? Selyra met his gaze unflinching. Peace without truth is not peace. It is silence before collapse. And then, to my astonishment, she turned to the gathered crowd and spoke not to them as rulers, but as people. You fear difference, she said. You fear what cannot be controlled. But hear me. Was it not difference that saved me? A human's courage where Thalirian pride would have hesitated. If we deny what our hearts know, then peace is already broken. Her words lingered like firelight in the air. Choice. The Chancellor looked to me again. Daniel Hale. Will you accept her claim? Know this. Your answer may decide not just her fate, but the fate of every treaty between our peoples. My chest ached with the weight of it. I glanced at Selyra. She stood tall, proud, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. Fear that I might retreat, that I might leave her exposed before the entire galaxy. Took a breath. I do not know what the future holds. But I know this. When I saved her, I did not think of politics. When we spoke, I did not think of borders. I saw only her. If that is dangerous, then perhaps peace was never real. Yes, I accept her words. The hall exploded once more, but it no longer mattered. The ending. The summit ended in chaos, but it did not end in war. The Chancellor, wise enough to see the tides, declared that personal unions between species would not dictate politics. He dismissed the assembly with a stern warning, but the seed had been planted. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread across both worlds. Some called it scandal. Others called it hope. For the first time, humans and Thalirians began to ask not why not, but what if? As for Selyra and me, we met again beneath the alien stars. She stood beside me, her hand brushing mine, and whispered. The hall was stunned. But you did not leave me alone. Smiled. I never will. Perhaps we would never marry. Perhaps our bond would remain symbolic, a story told in whispers across the void. But it was real. And in that reality, stronger than politics or prejudice, lay the true beginning of peace. Because peace does not start with treaties. Starts with a confession. Starts with a choice. And it starts with the courage to say, I wish you were my husband, human.